King Mike Johnson, that is, gets the SAVE Act passed, gets the Trump agenda passed in the first stage of the biggest Trump victory so far of his administration. The people that said Mike Johnson, oh, get rid of him. No. Wrong. Trump's instincts were right about this guy, and I'm going to fight all those people that keep talking, dragging Mike Johnson. You don't have to believe he's a hero. He might even be a big, giant, fake rhino sellout like all my opponents say. But he keeps producing results. He keeps helping Trump win. So he's the weirdest rhino ever, if that's true. And you know who was working against Trump is Rand Paul. I like him too, but let's get to the news. I got boom, all set. You're going to be all set with the news right here on the Doug TenNapel channel. Okay, let's go. This is Eric Doherty. Breaking. House just passed the Trump Republican budget resolution, making way for savings of over $1 trillion, according to Speaker Johnson and Leader Thune. It was 216 to 214 votes. We had a 2-vote margin on that, with 2 GOP no votes. Gee, I wonder who those were. Okay, but it doesn't matter. It passed is the main thing. Now, this is just another image with Benny Johnson where he shows, let's do this one here on passage, Republican 216, Democrat. They got 4 Democrats to agree with this thing. So 4 came over, and then 208 no votes to join Rand Paul. And then this is Charlie Kirk. President Trump congratulates the House for passing the budget resolution and paving the way for a budget reconciliation bill, which is likely to include $1.5 trillion in spending cuts, an extension and expansion of President Trump's tax cuts, and a massive deregulation agenda. And then here's the Trump tweet. Congratulations to the House on the passage of a bill that sets the stage for one of the greatest and most important signings in the history of our country. And I agree. Among many other things, it will be the largest tax and regulation cuts ever even contemplated. Make America great again, guys. That's what happened. That's what Mike Johnson pulled off with only a 2-vote gap. Two vote. We won that one by 2 votes. Here's Rasmussen. Update, maybe Democrats called their pollster. This is about the Democrats who voted for the resolution. The House of Representatives passed the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility. That's the SAVE Act on Thursday. What's the big deal about that? Tell me this does not influence your country's future, guys. This is the biggest. I didn't even see how they could pass this, is my opinion on it. The final vote. Okay, wait, this is on Thursday, okay, that's today, which would require documented proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote for federal elections. That's going forward. Only American citizens vote. I believe you can cheat your way around this. I believe the illegal market will respond by just upping the ability to create fake voter IDs. They're handing out Social Security numbers to illegals. So there's ways around this, but this is a first step, guys, to say at the national level, you have to have proof of citizenship. The final vote was 220 to 208, with 1 Democrat absent due to medical issues. 4 Democrats voted with all the Republicans in support of the bill, and 4 Republicans didn't vote. So we actually got 4 Democrats, and Rasmussen is proposing maybe they looked at the polls on this one, on how unpopular this is. The American people very much support this measure. While non-citizens are prohibited from voting in federal, state, and most local elections, municipalities in California, Maryland, and Vermont, and Washington, D.C. allow non-citizens to vote in local elections. The SAVE Act would amend the 1993 National Voter Registration Act, the NVRA, also called the Motor Voter Law, which is at the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles, to make states require documentation of a person's U.S. citizenship before registering to vote in federal elections and to ensure that states remove non-citizens from their voter rolls. I'll bet there'll be a court case on this too, where the Democrats say states' rights, we're allowed to have illegals vote if we want. And then here's the big article over on NBC News. We're in enemy territory on NBC with King Mike in the picture there. House adopts budget blueprint for Trump's agenda after GOP leaders sway the holdouts. There were some holdouts on this. He had to do some work. Republican lawmakers can begin crafting a massive party line bill now that both the House and the Senate have approved the same budget framework. That's a lot of words. I don't fully understand it, but we'll keep going. Washington, Speaker Mike Johnson. Oh man, it's pushing me up every time I highlight it. Speaker Mike Johnson, Republican Louisiana, muscled a revised budget blueprint needed to advance President Trump's agenda through the House on Thursday, beating back a conservative rebellion that had threatened to sink the measure one day earlier. That was yesterday. The vote was 216 to 214, with just two Republicans, Rep. Thomas Massie and Victoria Spartz, Republican of Indiana. I thought it would be Rand Paul. Joining all Democrats in opposition, Trump had endorsed the budget plan, which the Senate adopted last week on a narrow 51 to 48 vote. Let me see what the next steps are. Johnson abruptly scrapped a vote on the budget plan Wednesday, that was last night, after he and the conservative holdouts privately huddled for more than an hour off the House floor, but failed to come to an agreement. So he must have been talking to Massie and Spartz and could not get them to come on. The discussions continued that evening and into Thursday morning, when there appeared to be a breakthrough in the standoff. Shortly before the vote, Johnson appeared alongside Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, at a rare joint news conference and projected confidence. We did videos on them last night, all of them saying, I believe it's going to pass. I believe it's going to pass. Fiscal conservatives in the House, including several House Freedom Caucus leaders, had voted to vote down the budget unless they got guarantees for deeper spending cuts. Johnson said leaders were committed to finding at least $1.5 trillion in savings for the American people, a figure that seemed to win over many of the holdouts. The Senate passed budget blueprint had called for a minimum of just $4 billion in spending cuts, which the conservatives scoffed at and led to the impasse. So here's Speaker Johnson. Our first big, beautiful reconciliation package here involves a number of commitments. So Mike Johnson, he was, you have pushback from these conservatives like Thomas Massie and Spartz. I think that's okay. I kind of like the idea of there being some debate and people, to Mike Johnson's right, saying, you better make it real, make these spending cuts real. Don't try to BS your way through this thing. Now here's Simon Ateba, the guy on Twitter. He likes dogging President Trump for some reason, but I like this post. This goes into a little more of the backstory on it. Breaking: House passes budget resolution backed by Trump. Rand Paul warns it could add $5 trillion in new debt. That's Rand Paul. Okay, let me get down to that paragraph. However, Senator Rand Paul had expressed concern about the potential cost of the initiative, warning it could add up to $5 trillion in new debt. He called the package the greatest betrayal of fiscal conservatism in modern history, and continues to advocate for his six-penny plan, a proposal to balance the federal budget by cutting 6 cents from every dollar of federal spending. That's only 6%. However, that's Rand Paul's plan. So to me, it doesn't really, Rand Paul, do your thing, buddy. And we need to listen to that warning. But Trump is not a fiscal conservative. He's got furniture to break, and I'm all for it. Now, here's the fallout in the market. All good news. This is reposted from Donald Trump Post. Donald Trump Truth Social: inflation rate drops to 2.4% in March, lower than expected. It was only expected to be 2.8. It's down to 2.4. Lower inflation is very good about going against Biden inflation. There also could be some interest rate cuts in our future, meaning it might be cheaper to borrow money, which is good for business, and borrow money, which is good for buying a house. And that also influences a stronger economy. Now, here's Hakeem Jeffries talking doom and gloom. This is April, but the difference between April 3rd and today, watch this, Hakeem Jeffries being wrong about everything.
Trump promised that he would lower costs, in fact, on day one. But what we've seen under his reckless leadership is that costs aren't going down in America. They're going up. Inflation is going up.
Breaking moments ago, brand new numbers showing inflation fell last month, much better than expected.
So this was actually a drop of 0.1%, negative 0.1%. That's the first time we've seen that since COVID. Year over year, the annual inflation rate was at 2.4%. This was also better than expected and a 6-month low, moving in the right direction.
We haven't seen these numbers this positive on low inflation since 2020, since COVID started and ruined the entire economy. So this is good news. Trump is winning. And guys, this has only been a couple months. Just give it time. In 4 years, you're not going to recognize this place. And I mean to the good. And people don't have the vision. Skeptics, even like Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, and Spartz, all the Democrat naysayers, a lot of the fiscal conservatives that don't like what Trump is doing, give him a long leash to break this corrupt furniture in the room. That's what I say. Give him I'm not saying this as a rah-rah go MAGA. I am also rah-rah go MAGA. But part of it is because the results we've been getting by a broken government for 40 years needs to be broken and broken hard, and Trump is the guy to do it. You have a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I'm Doug in exile.